Hey everybody, Shell Brodnax here with a new episode of Stager Talk, and I am so incredibly excited today to introduce you to Mr. Patrick Callahan, Esquire from Atlanta, Georgia, the smartest attorney on the planet that's going to solve all your woes at Atlanta in February. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Excited to see you guys coming to Atlanta in February.
We are so excited. I'm so incredibly excited to be able to meet you in person. You were actually referred to us by a stager, one of our members, Barbara Hale-Sonic out of Georgia. She's been working with you, and it just could not say better things about you.
Great. Well, she is lovely. I've had a pleasure knowing her and working with her for years and seeing how her business has grown and gone through some different stages herself.
Awesome. Can you just tell our viewers just a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I was actually born and raised in Atlanta, one of the few Atlanta natives around, and studied, went to undergrad in Washington, D.C., worked there, did some tax consulting, moved back to Atlanta after some work experience in the D.C. area. Went to law school, practiced law for a number of years, actually transitioned away from the law practice for a brief period of time to get into financial consulting work, and now have a hybrid practice where I work almost exclusively with business owners, dealing with a combination of financial and legal matters, tying together taxes and investments and insurance and strategic planning and succession planning and estate planning, all those kinds of things, basically just trying to organize their financial chaos. So that's my focus now. And
it's very important to you. I think with our industry, you know, I've been in the industry since 2002, and back then it was just strictly the solopreneur. You were lucky if maybe you got your best friend to kind of partner with you, or
right.
Your teenage children to help you move everything, and your husband as well. And
right.
So matured over the years. I mean, we just really got to give some really awesome credit to these stagers that, you know, over the last 15, 16 years, they've really matured their businesses. And now we're actually at a point in the industry where we're starting to see people say, hey, wait a minute, I really actually did build a thriving business and not a practice, which I know you're going to touch on the differences. And now they're at a point in time in their lives where they're saying, okay, now I need an exit strategy. And what do I need to do? And so all these problems are coming up because people don't know what they don't know. So you're going to do a couple topics for us. So let's just talk about the first one. We're titling that one, How to Retire a Millionaire. Can you tell everybody a little bit about what we're going to focus on that particular session?
Well, we are going to talk, first we're going to try and really highlight the differences, as you just described, between having a practice model and a solopreneur model, which is perfectly fine, the pros and cons of the solopreneur model versus potentially bigger, potentially riskier business model, where we really are talking about a business enterprise that has some independent value, separate and distinct from the owner, and the different approaches to running those two different types of businesses, growing those two types of businesses, and essentially using both of those businesses to create wealth, create some type of financial security on an ongoing basis, and then having a real relevant and I think practical discussion about what the end goal is of those two different business models. And it's really not going to be, I'm not going to be taking a position as to which is right or wrong, because that's ultimately for the owner to say what is most appropriate for them. But everybody's goal is going to be financial security, how to build a reliable income stream, how to run their business effectively, profitably. Obviously, either way, you have to run your business profitably. But whether we are setting aside and saving for the future in more of a traditional retirement account kind of way, setting aside your retirement nest egg that way, or treating the business itself as your stock, as your nest egg that is going to build in value and then how do you actually liquidate that, or how do you draw down on the value of that business over time? Either that could be your $1 million nest egg, or over time, slowly and surely building over your career a nest egg outside of your business in a more traditional way. We're going to talk about the pros and cons, just the distinctions of the two options.
Now, the term management, I think it's a little scary for some people. And I think when people hear the word wealth management, they really think you have to be wealthy, you have to be rich, you have to have that. And that's really not what this is about. This is your average person needs wealth management in order to secure your future. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know with me, when I was a kid, summer lasted forever. It wasn't just the 3 months you were off. It literally felt like a year. And now 3 months, it goes by like that.
It goes by.
What is happening? I just turned 50 in October, and I was literally having a conversation this morning with my husband saying, hey man, I got about 10 years. We really need to start thinking about some things to be able to make sure, you're not eating cat food when you're 65. That's important, right?
It's absolutely important. And the concept of wealth is relative. Some of my most detail-oriented and attentive clients, to their planning, to their financial planning, to their estate planning, to their tax planning, are some of the ones that are on what you would refer just financially and numerically on the lower side of the spectrum. But arguably some of them are, because they're on the lower side of the spectrum, they have arguably less margin for error, and it is so much more important for them to do the right kind of planning for their wealth. So if it's important to you, and if that's all you got, that is your wealth, and you need to take care of it. So again, the concept of wealth management is not just for the elite. It's not just for the top 1%ers. It really is for anybody that cares about their own financial security, and really about the financial security of their family, their coworkers, their business partners, their employees, if they have them. For people who really care about doing the right thing and taking care of themselves and other people that they care about, they want to just have some plans in place. So we're going to be talking a little bit about some ideas, just to plant the seeds of some ideas of some things people are going to want to consider, and go back home and maybe get together with some of their advisors and think a little bit more detail in a little bit more detail about.
Yeah. And strategy down. Let's talk about exit strategies. Your second session is going to be called "What to Do Now in Order to Sell Later." So let's touch on that. What are some of the key points of that session?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking really about exit strategies and succession strategies. And once again, those things can mean, those could be synonymous, or they could be, those two different terms could be a little bit different. We're going to go back to the concept, briefly touch on again the concept of having a practice and more of a solo business arrangement, solopreneur arrangement versus a business model, because that really does impact if you have something to pass on. When you do have a business, you have a customer base, you have some repeat customers, you have systems in place. Again, that is something that there can be independent enterprise value. And as you are starting to think about what a transition plan would be, at the end of the day, exit planning and succession planning is still really about one thing, and that is retirement. What happens when I'm gone? And then the question is, can this business live on without me? If you have a practice and it's just you, the answer might be no. But so long as you're secure and you've taken good care of your customers, you might be able to wind things down reasonably, and have an exit from your business, and that's what exit planning might be in that situation. Bad things happen to good people every day, as we talked about a little bit earlier. Sometimes just having a plan for what if I get hit by the proverbial bus, what happens in that situation? Yes, what I sometimes refer to as unplanned retirement. What do we have to have? And whether you have a business or a practice, having a strategy in place for that still makes a lot of sense and takes care of a lot of people and avoids a lot of confusion. But not just planning for the worst, but really preparing and planning and positioning for the best is really where succession planning comes in. But the success in succession planning, and that could be either a handoff of management responsibilities, a handoff of ownership, or a partial handoff and a phased handoff of a little bit of both. There's going to be a lot of different ways to slice and dice that. And some people are transitioning to family. Some people are transitioning to key people that have been with you for a while, but maybe a generation below you, and you're ready to sail off into this sunset. But you are going to transition responsibility, day-to-day operational responsibility to some other folks. Maybe give them a piece of ownership as some additional compensation tied to that. Or maybe it's just going to be an all-in-one clean break, 100% sale to an industry competitor that's consolidating. In any of those events, again, there's some planning and there's some proactive and advanced strategies that really are worth thinking about, putting down on paper and preparing for. And particularly if you are talking about the best case scenario succession plan or exit strategy where you're going to be selling this business, there's probably some things that you can do and you have full control of in the time leading up, maybe a year, maybe a couple of years leading up, that can really help you maximize the value of that business. And I think you're going to have some other speakers that are helping give some real expert assessments of how to get maximum value for your business. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and those two sessions might tie together.
Yeah. So is an appraisal. I'm hearing you want to maybe turn your computer volume down a teeny bit, or we're getting some reverb. So I think Will is going to teach on that as well. And like I said, what we're finding is now that newbie stager that was new 15 years ago is now in that point where they're saying, tired of schlepping sofas around and I'm wanting to exit. How do I do this? And then they start looking into it and they are coming back and they're reporting, I've got a year to 3 years of stuff that I need to do. We need to make our books crystal clean,
right?
Pristine and perfect, policies, procedures, department manuals, the tax strategies, making sure everything's set up correctly. So this event is going to be a great event. Where, before we were saying the seasoned stager, 100% for sure, but even the newbie stager and anything in between, because this is valuable information that everybody needs to know. And in reality, it's better to be prepared and know it. The sooner you can learn this information, the better that your company is going to be off down the line.
That's absolutely right. It really is never too early to start planning. And like I said earlier, I've had to deal with some self-conscious clients or prospective clients that felt like maybe they didn't have enough to justify certain types of planning. But whatever it is, if this is all you've got, it's whatever that amount is, if that's all you got, that's worth thinking about and taking care of and protecting and coming up with a plan to maximize the potential of that. So yeah, there are a lot of things, though. Most of it really is within the control of the business owner to be organized and have some clean financials, have some books that you could show to a prospective buyer that are well organized and reflective of a thriving business. And it's going to be a whole lot easier to sell than say, I'm going to give you the same shoebox that I give to my CPA every year that they have to make sense of. That's really not going to help you sell your business for top dollar. Yes.
A lot of people. I think too, when you have, if your investing is not as ginormous as Warren Buffett, it's most important that you get with somebody who's a lot smarter than you are to try to figure out exactly how we're going to dole that out, exactly how it's all going to work for your best interest. I'm
absolutely.
We've talked about this event. I'm super excited to meet you and hear everything that you have to say. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your day today to talk to me a little bit about this event. And everyone else who's listening, please check us out February 28th and March 1st, RESA Connect Atlanta. And we're so thrilled to be able to have Patrick Callahan, William Lee. He's with the American Society of Appraisers. He's going to be talking about business valuations and how to get the most out of your business when you do sell it. And Will and Patrick actually work together a lot. So theirs go right hand in hand. And then finally, team building. If you're thinking about building a team or you have a team and you want to empower your team, Anthea Click is the person to be able to tell you this. She's an amazing team. She really empowers her team to have ownership over their jobs and their roles. So everybody's working really well as a well-oiled machine. She's a 14,000 square foot facility with moving trucks. She's very, very impressive. She's from Nashville, Tennessee, and she's going to be there talking about team building. And then of course, we're going to have the RESA buying group. If you haven't checked that out, please do. And we're going to have our launch party on February 28th at the AmericasMart. We're doing this event there. So check us out. Check out the events for the year. Also, RESACon coming up in July. Patrick, thank you so much for joining me today. I will let you get back on your day, and everybody else, thanks for joining us, and we will see you in February. Until then, happy staging.
Excellent.